to say you weren't fat, but you lost some weight when you were sick. So I guess you came out of this on the good end. I've always made the joke that when I get the flu occasionally, I lose 10 pounds. But wow, where should we start?
Well, I put it this way: I lost weight the hard way. You know, Alex, I think the president-elect was hoping to have more of a working vacation at his estate, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach. But my understanding is he has been glued to the telephone, working the UN situation and beating back the treachery of the Obama administration there, in touch with other world leaders. I must say, it felt really great to have a president of the United States who was actually willing to tweet "Merry Christmas" rather than "Happy Holidays." I wish that the president-elect could get the kind of rest and recreation, a little more golf, but he's very plugged in to the world situation, which I think you could see in this statement this morning, in which he essentially says, "Hold on, Israel, help is coming."
What do you make geopolitically? The Democrats pretty much admit they're trying to cause a war to embarrass Trump. They should be brought up in charges if they actually cause this war and try to bring down the economy. They admit they want to raise interest rates to stall the Trump euphoria. They're in full panic mode. The world is so hungry for prosperity. Trump is turning out even better than we thought, and he's still 21 days out.
And they made an enormous investment in an attempt to hijack the Electoral College. They made an enormous investment, $3.5 million to the state of Wisconsin for the phony recount that yielded nothing, after harping on the popular vote. So at each stop, their plan to upset the apple cart and remove Donald Trump has failed. This is why I think you're seeing this kind of hysteria generated once again by Mr. Soros.
I brought up some points here, and I want to get back into questions I've got, Roger, but obviously I know you got better the last few days, so you were reassessing what was happening currently. What else should we be looking for? What else should we on the outlook for, obviously, because there's good things happening, there's bad things happening. We see the ruling class that's hijacked the country and the world panicking because they see a return of prosperity, something that they've been admitting they have to tap down. The West is so powerful, so wealthy, that Americanism must be destroyed so collectivism can be supreme. What else is on your radar?
Well, let's remember that President-elect Trump is still trying to form a government. He still has to name a Secretary of Agriculture. He still has to name somebody to straighten out the mess at the Veterans Administration. I do know that he is very, very focused on the VA. He's very focused on looking at innovative programs to finance an infrastructure rebuilding across the country. These, combined with his economic plan, I think are the main focus here. And having known him almost 40 years, the word can't does not exist in his lexicon. He just says he's an American. All things are possible.
Sure.
And therefore, he is deeply committed. I know the experts have told him the VA system can't be fixed. He doesn't believe it, and he's going to fix it. It is so refreshing to have a political figure who wins office and then actually intends to do the things he said he was going to do in the election.
Well, that's right. Well, Trump understands what's really going on because he battled big cities and corrupt machines all over the country. And I've had all the top experts on from the VA, even former deputy heads, and they say, look, we're here to social engineer the vets, make sure they don't actually get what they're supposed to do, and basically list them all as mentally ill so they can politically have their rights taken. So it's been deliberately sabotaged. That's why, I mean, the amount of money spent, they should all be treated like kings and queens. And so just taking the foot off the troops' necks and just allowing the actual funds to get to them will bring in the doctors, bring in the people we need. So that's what this is about. It's like healthcare. We had the best in the world till they started sabotaging it.
I think that's exactly right. It is probably the #1 national scandal. It's something that I know keeps Trump up late at night. is something he feels very deeply about, and you're going to get progress in this area. But he's got an entire government to reform. For example, under the Democrats, the Interior Department, specifically the Bureau of Indian Affairs, has become a money machine for the Democratic National Party.
That's right. Nothing against the Native Americans and their casinos, but they give, 95% I was reading just last week in the Wall Street Journal to the Democrats. Sorry, you don't have foreign governments that get to do things that other people can't, and then you use it to manipulate our country and take our guns and our freedom. Sorry, Native Americans. Sorry, you can make millions of dollars, but not at the expense of my freedom.
That's exactly right. So, believe it or not, the #1 donor to the Democratic National Party is the trial bar. #2 are the Indian casinos. #3 is organized labor. That is where we have gotten to. And the truth is that 90% of the cash...
Hold on, we got an emergency. This is much worse than we thought. We knew they were trying to start a war with Russia. They've just expelled the Russian diplomats and closed Russian embassies here in the U.S. That was not even done during the Cuban Missile Crisis or during the Cold War. This is something you do when you go to DEFCON 2. Defense Condition 2, or maybe even 1, which means, this is total insanity, Reuters. Oh, my God, this is a coup against America to stop Trump. Oh, this is 10 times worse than I thought. The United States on Thursday expelled 35 Russian diplomats and closed 2 Russian compounds in New York and Maryland in response to a campaign of harassment by Russia against American diplomats in Moscow. A senior U.S. official said on Thursday, wow, the U.S. official speaking on condition of anonymity. We've seen U.S. diplomats try to run into their embassies and infiltrate. The U.S. official speaking on condition of anonymity told Reuters the Russian diplomats would be given 72 hours to leave the United States. Access to 2 compounds will be denied to all Russian officials as of noon Friday, the official added. So this is unprecedented, Roger. You were in the Nixon administration. You were in the Reagan administration. When we were on the edge of, nuclear war, this crap didn't go on. This is unprecedented.
The obviousness of it is what's so astounding. It is so blatant. This is reminds me of Joe Biden chortling about the cyber war that we're going to use to provoke the Russians. They are so
Doesn't
desperate.
Trump need to tell them stop it right now? We need to start. This is an act of war right here. This is what, you shut down embassies once war starts.
The problem, of course, is that the administration wouldn't listen. Just yesterday in an interview, President Obama says that had he run against Donald Trump, he's confident that he would have beaten him.
Money.
What happened to the American tradition of the outgoing president not criticizing the incoming president and vice versa? It has been a bipartisan tradition in this country since the beginning of time.
Well, Roger, look, they would only invoke and claim the Russians had taken over through Trump if they were planning to engage COG and have martial law and war. I said that 3 weeks ago. It got picked up internationally. I've studied COG. We're going to skip this break, guys. I'm going to have to skip all of them here. We're about to have a nuclear war. This, in my knowledge, Roger, let's get on this right now and get Watson on it, too. I don't believe they've ever done something like this where they close diplomatic compounds that are already established without having a congressional law that just changes where they can have them. And that's not been done even during the Cold War. Roger, this is unprecedented. These actions were taken to respond to Russian harassment of American diplomats. See, no proof. Now it's not hacking. Now it's harassment.
Who exactly are these diplomats? And why was not reported at the time?
And the actions by diplomats that have been assessed to be not consistent with diplomatic practice, the officials told Russia. This is just the beginning. They're saying they're going to launch a cyber war on Russia. I guess turn their lights off, maybe turn a nuclear power plant off, and then when they have another Chernobyl, just have a frickin' nuclear war here, Roger?
Anything is possible under this administration, and the hysteria they are experienced because they see Donald Trump dissembling the New World Order.
Well, I said last night, I watched CNN, and they had the look of people around a death watch where they went, something big's about to happen, war, and it's Trump's fault. And they went, it's his fault, knowing it's all them doing it. And then they just went, so be it. And I was like watching what I saw before 9/11 on CNN again. And they said something big's going to happen. Big towers are going to come down. Our life will never be the same. We're going to change the way we have freedoms. There's going to be a big war. And it was the Hart-Rubin Commission, Gary Hart and Warren Redmond on, no, it was CNBC. It was Hardball. And they were telling that 9/11 was coming and the world would never be the same on July 24th. And I came out and said they're going to blow up the World Trade Center, blaming it on bin Laden. I'm seeing the same weird criminal energy now on the TV channels as they prepare for something big, Roger. And Roger, you know I don't just say stuff. I mean, everything's aligning. I think they're going to try a coup. I think we're in an emergency situation right now.
I agree with you. I'm particularly concerned about the president's security. He is hunkered down at his place in Palm Beach. But as each day gets closer to January 20th,
good God,
the hysteria level just ratchets up. So I think that these are desperate times, and these are desperate people who will do desperate things.
Let's be clear. If we were reading about this 50 years ago in U.S. history, there'd be thousands of books. It'd be the #1 thing ever. The battle, the war, the Democrats not leaving, being funded by foreign powers, claiming that another president who wasn't was funded by it. I mean, they're the ones that have the end-to-end casinos putting money into Hillary. They're the ones with the Saudi Arabians bragging they gave 20%. They're the ones in the WikiLeaks involved in all the crime and all the foreign collusion and all the foreign money. Then they're blaming America, wanting our sovereignty back on the Russians and claiming if Merkel's voted out, they're going to ignore the vote because the Russians did that too. I mean, this is crazy.
They have to be very disappointed in the fact that only 29% of the American people have bought the entire fraudulent argument that the Russians hacked and somehow affected our election. This was their big move, and it has
Sure. So let me ask you this question.
As a get prop. It has failed as a get prop, and now they're going to take it to the next level.
I agree, Roger. So let me ask you this question. What does Trump do? What do we do? These are abject lying criminals. We have the WikiLeaks. They're completely insane. They're trying to start a war with Russia. They clearly shot down the airplane and the other one as well with a surface-to-air missile. There's footage of that. They're killing diplomats. They're hurtling towards war. They've got Keith Olbermann calling for war with Russia, screaming Russian scum. This is insane.
Well, the good news, of course, is that the president has surrounded himself with a solid group of advisors like General James Mad Dog Mattis, General Flynn. So he's not out there alone. I guarantee you he is huddled with his advisors and that they...
I know, and I mean, do they understand the magnitude of what's currently happening? Because I understand they want to be, fixing America, getting us jobs, trying to prove they're nice guys, while the frickin' demons are planning to start nuclear war and openly cause an intifada to overthrow Israel.
Again, I think that the establishment types have been so brazen, so obvious in their moves that they are entirely on President Trump's radar screen now. I think he knows exactly what's going on, and I too am counting the minutes before he takes office.
Gosh, I think they're crazy enough. I mean, they got Soros, who commands this whole thing, saying he's Hitler and he must be stopped. What do you make of that?
This has been a trend that you spotted from the beginning. All along the way, they have accused us of exactly what they are doing at every step of the process from the beginning. So they're the ones who would like to stage a Hitler-like coup, but we blame that on Donald Trump. It's Kafkaesque. I mean, it's Alice in Wonderland.
It's upside down world.
It really is. It really is.
Roger, again, I don't want to be hysteric here. This is hysterical. I've read hundreds of books on the whole Russian thing, like you have. The Cold War. It's so interesting. I've seen countless Discovery Channel and History Channel shows. I've had a bunch of guests on about it. The Venona secrets and all of it. I mean, I've never seen them. Google expelling Russian diplomats in history. Or has the U.S. expelled diplomats before? They've expelled them that were known spies doing illegal things. But to just expel whole buildings, claiming some nebulous thing, Roger, have you ever heard of this?
It's a provocation. I've never seen anything like it historically. And it is something that the president has to stay on top of.
Well, they're planning something. I saw the arrogance return to the CNN operatives, we know are CIA, bad group CIA. I saw the arrogance come back last night, and they're planning something big. And they're like, well, he's got to handle the fact that the Russians put him in, and there's about to be a big war, and it's his fault. And they're all like, yep. And they look very satisfied talking about the president suddenly, and they've got some evil plan. And my God, I don't know what to say, Roger.
Alex, I'm going to head back to the computer because I've got a tight deadline for my book, The Making of the President 2016. And I should add, I'm trying to include these very events that we're talking about in the book. In other words, until the book closes, I am going to bring this right up to the second of Donald Trump.
Sure, and it's historical, and you've got a blueprint. Well, listen, before you go in the last 2 minutes we have left here, other things that are on the radar, what else can we as citizens do? Call into talk radio, point this is happening. I mean, how do we expose this insanity?
The best way, of course, is, I think, do exactly that, to call into radio shows like this one and to work the social media very hard while we still have it. Twitter, Facebook, Gab, these are powerful, powerful tools. And we know that our critics and those who would overturn this election would like to shut us down from these social media outlets. So take to the ramparts, use your Twitter feed, use your Facebook feed.
That's right. And also our own URL, stonecoldtruth.com, infowars.com, prisonplanet.com. Those are going to become more and more important as they delist us, block us, and the rest of it. It's now here. Roger, thank you.
Great to be here again.
Folks can pre-order the book. When's the book come out in the next couple months?
The book has to be turned in by the 1st, and it should be out around the time of the inauguration.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can pre-order the book now on Amazon.com, his website as well. And we're now pre-ordering it, pre-selling it at InfoWarsStore.com. But let me just state the most important thing of the broadcast today, okay? I'm going to state it right now for everybody as we're about to go to break and come back. It looks comical for them saying the election was stolen by Russians and we're all Russian spies, and they just passed a law last Friday to start censoring media they claim is connected to the Russians and turn loose the Board of Governors under the FCC, under CIA command, to shut down the internet, you name it. That's a huge story, that the internet, print media, satellite, all of it they're claiming is now under the FCC, under the National Defense Authorization Act of 2017, and they admit that they're going to censor. Now, the censorship's already beginning at Google, Facebook, and Twitter. They're not going to bring in total censorship until they start a war. And then it's, oh, see, we're rounding up the Russian agents. This is just so historic, so brazen, so naked, so insane, and it's sure to cause a civil war. They miscalculated with Hillary. They miscalculated with the polls. They miscalculated on WikiLeaks. They're run by this crazy old Nazi collaborator, and they're planning to not let Trump get into office and start a war with Russia. And they're willing to start a nuclear war before they do. They're willing to overthrow Israel. Basically saying to the Arabs, start attacking Israel. U.S. expels 35 Russian diplomats, closes 2 compounds. Get me everything we've got on this. And they say more is going to start happening. This is unbelievable. Kicking Russians out of the United States from embassies. This Russia escalation and all the craziness and laws being signed saying basically we're Russian agents.
Well, I think, what people really need to understand is that we are being ruled by sociopaths. I mean, we have sociopaths in power who that's all they care about is power and control. And they're not willing to relinquish that. And they're freaking out over the fact that Donald Trump is going to take office, which means prison for them if he dares to come after them. He, like you said earlier, he needs to let George Soros know, I'm coming after you. You're the number 1 priority on my list.
The fact that he's being so nice is only emboldening these people.
Exactly. And, the fact that we've got like the Council on Foreign Relations fearing collapse of the UN under President Trump. I mean, they are freaked out that he's going to cut the funding. That's,
It's like a James Bond movie. The reclusive Matt Drudge is like one interview every 3-4 years. He shows up here a year ago, says they're coming next year. I've been told and now it's here.
Right. I mean, everything that we could take that Matt Drudge interview and piece by piece, he warned us, and it's really true.
It's not like he was just thinking this up on his own. It was being told by high-level people.
Exactly.
I've been told the same thing. They were planning when Hillary got in to start arresting people.
I just think
that's why they're all pissed. They were about to have their way with us. The intelligence agencies and the Patriots kicked their butt.
Right.
And now they're pissed.
They did not see it coming. They truly thought that they...
Look, let me tell you something. The Patriots are going to release all the real dirt. I think that's why Trump's confident, is if they really want to push, their stuff's going to get released that is going to mean you're all going to jail, okay? Just get ready. You asked for it. Go ahead.
Well, the fact that they're going to want to start World War III out there, but then if they don't allow President-elect Trump to take office, it's going to start a civil war here in our own country. So it's just going to be madness, chaos everywhere.
And it's a big pedophile guild running it. You don't get in it unless you're a pedophile. That's why they focused on Pizzagate as a distraction with that one pizza place to divert off all the other emails that proved it. Well, just guess what? It's all going to come out now.
Right.
Alex, you
and I know
Margaret, go ahead.
You mentioned them kicking out the Russian diplomats from the country. You know, this article that's originating from Zero Hedge, it is ridiculous. So at some point, the White House is set to unveil a new sanction and other retaliatory measures against Russia, specifically the Kremlin. We're going to just continue to freeze all their assets, which is exactly what we did after Crimea and the Ukraine situation.
And then say Trump's a Russian agent when he unfreezes it.
Right, exactly. And you are as well, my dear boss. You are a Russian agent as well, like we all are. And you know what? These sanctions, they just go right along with it. Why not sanction them? Why not try to freeze their assets?
Yeah, why not? They just signed a bill, you know, to put the FCC over all media and the CIA running it last week.
That's right. And meanwhile, we've got this Spanish defense military report that is saying, look, we have a hotbed situation happening. Islamic radicalism, the conditions are enabling because of the way that it is here. They're enabling this free and almost undetectable movement of their members in the region. And yet Latin America is a major recipient of USAID, I might add. Meanwhile, they're a hotbed for radical extremism.
That's right. Go over that headline because this is important. For folks to understand, our government's made an alliance with jihadis worldwide to give them weapons. It's all come out. Our military knows it. They call it a conspiracy theory and fake news that the Arab Spring was funded by the West and turned loose when it's a fact. It's an admitted, it's like the former, spokesman for Obama saying, I was told to go out there and say there is no drone program, even though it had existed for 5 years, thousands of strikes, thousands of sorties. And I was saying something didn't exist that was admitted to exist. You know, it's like saying Donald Trump doesn't exist or Leanne McAdoo doesn't have brown hair. It's prima facie horse manure. What do you think the tactic here is? Where do you think this is all going, Ashley?
Well, Alex, I think where it's all going is, well, basically they want to totally create this whole World War III scenario, as we've been talking about. I mean, they're taking measures beyond anything they've ever done with the Cold War with Russia. Everywhere you go, there's propaganda about Russia, having hacked the election, yet we have no proof. There's another, Zero Hedge article, Obama under intense pressure to release evidence proving Russians hacked the election. So we're just kind of waiting for, the real proof. And there is none. And that's just the fact of the matter. Right. And it's a cognitive dissonance where, we're not really understanding who the true enemy is. And honestly, I think that's China. And if we push Russia away, they could actually end up in an alliance, and that could really bring down
America. Sure, that's where that was going until Trump came in. I mean, Obama's just been destroying us on purpose because they want global corporations to be in charge, not nation states working together. And let me just make the big announcement. We're in a civil war now. When you've got active corporate media unified lying about the president-elect and lying about independent Americana, I mean, no one in the reality-based universe would say, I'm connected to Russia or anybody else is. And so here we are battling for this republic, battling to lower taxes, battling to take care of our veterans, battling to secure our borders, battling to stop the government-funded cop killing, and all this insanity. And then they're saying we need a war with Russia, and are doing all the things you do before a war, and then they just activated the Middle East to blow up with an intifada. This shows they're going for broke with 21 days. So let me ask all of you, again, going back to Ashley, then right through Margaret and Leanne, what do you think they're going to pull next in 21 days? What do you think we can do?
Well, it seems like Israel seems to be, a really, really hot button issue right now. They seem to really be pushing. I mean, with John Kerry yesterday saying that Israel's never going to be at peace. There's never going to be a two-state solution. So I really think that they're going to try to use Israel and Russia, some of our big allies, in order to just kind of create this World War III scenario before Trump gets into office.
I totally agree. And before you keep going any further, I've always pointed this out. And like I said, Gary Johnson acts mentally ill and does this flick of the tongue thing. And when he was here, would like stare at the walls like he was on something. Then people noticed he started doing it in public. Kerry looks like he's wearing a rubber mask and constantly, like a snake, flicks his tongue out like he's got, Down syndrome or something. And I'm not trying to be mean here. What has happened to these people? It's like they're possessed by something. What do you make of this, Ashley, and then others?
Well, definitely, it looks like it could be some sort of mental illness. I mean, there are so many different things that could be affecting these people. We don't know, what they could have been undergoing, these new technologies and things. We have no idea, what
I was about to say, he didn't look like this till about 2 years ago, and then he just emerged with this rubber head and the tongue flicking.
It's a really, really, really weird tick.
I'm telling you, Gary Johnson didn't act like a human when he was here. He'd been here before, it was totally normal.
What do you think it is, Maggie?
It's a demonic possession, if I had to guess. That's my expert opinion. And we've got him saying, Israel, you can't both be Jewish and democratic. Well, screw democratic, number one, especially your version of it, buddy. And Alex,
well, it's like saying the U.S. can't be based on Christianity. It doesn't mean it's a state-run religion, but Christians were in the founding.
Right, exactly. Meanwhile, we've got these nation states working together. Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey and Russia, Vladimir Putin discussing a ceasefire. They conveniently leave our president out of it because he props up imams of Iran and goes after Israel. So to your question, what could we see in the next 20 some odd days? You know what? We can't take, as Roger Stone has said time and again, an assassination attempt off the table. We have mainstream media elites practically calling for it. There's no telling, but it looks like...
I mean, it's clear they're trying to start a war ahead of Trump getting in. And then say, we're Russian agents, we're at war with Russia, and basically just have helicopters attack Trump Tower, kill Trump, wipe him out, wipe out the generals. That's why Trump's got generals around him. Trump knows what's going on. You heard Stone earlier. I haven't talked to Trump in a while, but I mean, this is just out of control.
Yeah, well...
But I've told Trump, I said, they're coming after you. And he goes,
Well, and that's why I don't think that he finally came to understand that, like, they're not going to hold back. So he just really came after him and said whatever, they weren't expecting him to go hard in the debate against Bill Clinton and everything. But we're seeing just this massive gaslighting against the masses. And this is their social...
For folks who don't know what gaslighting is, it's an inversion of reality. Explain.
Right. It's basically, someone tricking you by flickering the lights, and then you're saying, man, why are the lights flickering? And they're saying, the lights? I don't see the lights flickering. You must...
It's like, hey, I just got this IRS letter, $5,000 fine. I didn't get a bump. You didn't get that. You're like, yeah, here's the fine. And no, you didn't. Racist.
Or saying, Trump is going to start World War III. But meanwhile, they're starting World War III. Or President Obama coming out and saying everyone should be alarmed about the Russians. And we're saying, why? What are...
There's been a coup against this country by multinationals. We're trying to get back control like Russia did 18 years ago of their own country. Doesn't mean they're perfect. And, of course, we're all in solidarity, whether it's Italy or the UK or whatever. We don't want to be under the globalists. And so they're pissed trying to cause a war to make us stay under their UN.
Right. And that's what I think is just so incredible. And yes, it's a volatile time, but it's also really incredible because the beast is on the verge of collapse. And that's why they are really ramping up.
I agree. Let's get some hydrogen bomb explosions going behind us here for TV viewers. I mean, folks, it's a miracle we haven't had nuclear war yet. And I was just talking to folks yesterday. They've got one squadron of airplanes in this country that in just a few hours could fly from end to end of the country, bombing every city and killing 150 million people. Okay? I mean, that's what we've got going with crazy people like Kerry with his tongue flipping out. And I realize it's like Stockholm Syndrome to Islam. The Saudis have bought all these guys off. They want some giant global jihad. And the left hates Christianity and prosperity so much and is so into authoritarianism, they're in love with Islam.
Well, what do you make of the fact that you have John Kerry coming out telling Israel they need to either choose Jewish or a democratic state, but they would never say that to Saudi Arabia, who is beheading women for...
Oh, yeah, women just got beheaded yesterday for shopping without their husband.
Yeah.
That's in my stack.
It's like we've seen the way that they treat governments who allow or who are democratic and who allow Christians, Muslims, Hindus or whatever to live. That they took out.
Yeah, the point is, if I go to Saudi Arabia and say praise Jesus on the street, they're going to put me in jail.
Right.
Next time they're going to execute me. There it is, woman beheaded in Afghanistan for shopping without husband.
Mm-hmm. And now they're calling for another woman to be beheaded because she dared to go out without her headscarf, in Saudi Arabia. And so
this is a bunch of insecure perverts. I mean, again, cutting women's genitals off. What a bunch of uncool people, man. I mean, look at this. Spanish military report. Islamic terrorists raise cash in Latin America to attack U.S. Judicial Watch. Here's another one. ISIS-linked group calls for New Year's Eve attacks using horrific images. If they attack, they'll say it wasn't Islamic. France raises terror attacks to support victims of attacks. Religion of peace, women beheaded after shopping without husband. Jihad in Belgium, police arrest 14-year-old with backpack bombs. Economic jihad, ISIS fighters receive welfare benefits from Danish taxpayers. They're flying them back to now get welfare. Because they love it. I mean, there's nothing a liberal woman loves like a jihadi. It's cuckolding. They're going to be chained up. Security fears. Well, we don't. So you go there and be a slave. We don't want it. Security fears prompt police to ban far right's New Year's Eve protest in Cologne to mark 12 months since wave of sex attacks in the city. So the right wingers can't go out and protest Islam, but Islam can run around and act like a bunch of morons. Fire sale, Hillary book now at 86% discount. Again, the elite are, here's the good news. They're so arrogant, they thought we wanted this space alien. Ladies, go ahead and comment.
Well, so that's the thing is just going back to this whole gaslighting. Because we are tapped into our humanity, look at these stories and say, my God, what is happening? This is absolute madness. Meanwhile, you have people like George Soros saying, this is the new normal. This is loving.
Trump is Hitler.
It's great. This is you're gonna get terror attacks, and it's fine because you got to open your heart. And this is the new world order: immigration, open.
And the left today are just weak-minded people that submit to whatever they're told via peer pressure, who've been bullied. And they got the same right-wing establishment hates Trump too. Everybody you claim you hate is against Trump, but you want to kill him. Because your identity is being a dumbass. Excuse me, I know I've been using some light profanity, I apologize, but we're on the edge of nuclear war here, people.
Right, this is not a time to be civil. This is a time for people to wake up and realize that they are being played on a massive scale.
Yeah, I'm going to wear my Trump shirt everywhere. Trump's my president. And anybody gets in my face, I'm done. I'm done with pseudo-intellectual jackasses on their holier-than-thou power trip telling me how I want war and how I'm racist. You guys jump in.
Well, it's hard to see it, I think, here in Austin. Like you were saying, there's so many people on power trips here that really did want Bernie Sanders, and, they're in favor of socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is this. I really am happy for American women. I'm proud of them that they didn't actually fall for the line. They didn't fall for Hillary Clinton.
Record numbers voted for Trump. You're right. And they don't like that number, do they?
Yeah. And even, 8% of African Americans voted for, Trump. So that was a positive. We're seeing the tide change.
It's probably higher than that, too. It was massive election fraud.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, yeah.
Right.
But
he has a homosexual, a woman, and a black man all in his cabinet, and yet they were so unsuccessful at the lies he was smearing. But Soros has the audacity to call him a con artist and a dictator. My one question: does this man ever die? Is he ever going to die? It's like literally, he looks like.
That's a good question, Ashley. Where do we deport George Soros?
I don't know. Hopefully soon. He just creates so many different, movements of divisiveness. I mean, from Black Lives Matter to, whatever it is, just to be able to bring people down and basically just control every aspect of their lives. That's what he wants to do with his money and his influence.
Good point. I want to come back and get more from Margaret, Leanne, all of you straight ahead. And then we've got the man that started it over a decade ago, NoMoreFakeNews.com. He's going to be hosting Mr. Rappaport. Wow, what an incredible time to be alive.